I'm recording this, you're sitting on my knee, I'm playing 2048 cupcakes. I love being autistic. I love having autism. I can't imagine living as a neurotypical or like an allistic person. I feel like their problems are so stupid and so arbitrary and like so like, I don't know how to word this right, but like they're so dumb. Like, allistic people get mad over really stupid things. Like, if your partner, okay, in sociology, like, I had a really bad day in sociology today, but we, like, talked about, like, toxic relationships, and, like, if your partner demands to see your phone to, like, see who's calling you, like, would you give it to them? And I'm like, I would just never end up in a situation where my partner is demanding to see my phone. Like, allistic people concern themselves with things that are, like, so stupid. They're so dumb. I'm sorry, but, like, why do you care so much about, like, someone else's privacy? I understand, like, for some reason with allistics, there's always this fear that, like, your partner is cheating on you. And I'm not necessarily sure where, like, this fear of infidelity comes from. I've never had a fear of infidelity with any of my past relationships. And it's just not something that I'm worried about. And so, like, I see these people and they're always scared of infidelity with their boyfriend. Like, oh my god, I think my boyfriend's cheating on me. Or, oh my god, I think my girlfriend's cheating on me. And I'm like, I just can't wrap my head around why someone would do that to another person, especially one that they claim to love. And it's just, like, such a strange thing to me because I don't understand it. I don't understand how people are, like, that they have to concern themselves with that. That's so sad. And I feel like autistic people aren't worried about that so much. Like, maybe it's just me, but I've never, or maybe I'm just lucky to, like, have never been in a relationship where I have to worry about someone cheating on me. But it's just, like, one of those things where I feel like allistic people, like, overly concern themselves with it. And I'm like, if you're dating someone that you feel like you can't trust, or you feel like is cheating on you, like, sucks to suck. Like, that's such a blunt way of putting it, but, like, I can't, there's something so thoughtless and, like, shallow about that fear to me, that you would willingly date someone that you think is cheating on you, or, like, are regularly concerned about cheating on you. It's just such, like, an allistic heterosexual fear, in my opinion. I mean, again, maybe other autistic people have that experience, but it's just literally never something that I've had to concern myself with. And so I just find it, like, really shallow. I just find it to be a really shallow thing. And no hate, any allistics watching this video, no hate to you. But I just generally think that, like, I'm smarter than most allistic people. Do I have a developmental disability? Well, no, it's not a developmental disability. But it's not an intellect. Do I have a disability? Yes. Does my disability literally make me smarter than you? Also, yes. Like, I'm just able to learn things. And allistic people aren't just able to, like, sit down and learn whatever they want about something. Like, if they think it's boring, then, like, they're doomed. Well, like, so am I. But, like, they just don't have the same interest in learning things that an autistic person does. I love learning things learning about things that interest me. Like, it's literally my favorite thing ever, is learning about things. And allistic people don't get that. They'll, like, for allistic people, going to a class that, like, isn't super easy is their worst nightmare. Like, like, they're like, oh my god, it's so boring. I'm like, okay, it's actually really interesting, and you just, like, your brain isn't wired to fucking appreciate it. Like my sociology class, all the allistic people in that class are like, don't want to do the work. They're like, oh my god, this is boring. I hate class. I hate school. And it's like, yeah, I hate school too, buddy, but come on. It's genuinely just down to like the difference in the way that our brains are wired. And I love my sociology class. And even though it's really like stressful and sad sometimes, and I literally had to leave early today because it got so stressful, I just love being able to like, I think part of that class, why I really like it, is I'm trying to study human behavior and study how people work, because as an autistic person, I don't necessarily understand how people work, but I genuinely wouldn't have it any other way. Like, and that shocks people. Like, when an autistic person is like, I like being autistic, like, I wouldn't want to not be autistic, people get upset by that. And I don't understand why. It's like it's such an internalized fear and discomfort of like why autism, like, and I think that allistic people don't realize that discomfort that they have towards autistics is the same discomfort that autistics have towards them. Like, I don't like really, there's like some non-autistic people who I get along with, but ultimately I could never date an allistic person again. I could never like be best friends with an allistic person, just because like it's not like a prejudice, you know. And people might take this and be like, oh, if you flip the script, like if you said you could never be best friends with an autistic person, like that would make me ableist. And yeah, it would make you ableist, but the difference is I think that like an autistic person wouldn't want to be friends with you. Like, allistics don't understand that they can be like genuinely insufferable. And just, I'm not saying that autism is all fun and games. There's some like parts of having autism that are like genuine struggles. That's what makes it a disorder. That's what makes it a disability, is that like I don't want to be having a meltdown on a nice Monday morning, but I am, and I can't do anything about it except for go home and have the meltdown. Like, there's not really a way to avoid a meltdown once it's already in motion, and that sucks. Like, I wish I could regulate my emotions to be able to avoid that kind of thing. And there are times where I wish I was able to like function better. And I'm not saying like, oh, I wish I was more high functioning, because that's not a thing. Like, high functioning, low functioning autism, like that's not how that works. What I mean is, like, there's points where it's like, wow, I should really be doing my homework, and I know that I'm not going to do my homework because it's hard for me to do my homework, and I really wish that I could just function better and, like, get this assignment done. I wish that my executive dysfunction would go away, but I know realistically that it's not just going to go away, and that I can't really just get rid of that because it's a part of my disability. And yeah, that part of having autism isn't fun and games. It's embarrassing that I can't get my work done because I'm disabled. Like, I feel like it makes people think that I'm stupid when I'm not stupid. I just don't really, like, if I don't want to do an assignment, it's not like, oh, I just didn't do it because I didn't want to. I didn't do it because I literally couldn't do it. Even if I tried to do it, like, I wouldn't have been able to do it. And people don't realize that. And I mean, it boils down again to, like, you know, I wish I could do the assignment. I just can't. But also, bro, allistics, I just wouldn't ever want to be allistic. Like, okay, hypothetically, if there was a pill that I could take and it would make me not autistic, like, I take this pill once a day and it completely somehow erases my neurodivergency. Here's what I would do. I would take it one time, a single time, and I would, for a day, live in the mind of an allistic person, and then I would never take it again. Because I have studied the way that allistic people behave, and I would hate to live in that brain. And they probably think the same fucking thing about me. They probably think, oh, wow, now, like, if there was an autism pill, actually, they would probably be like, if there was an autism pill, I would never take it. Which I don't understand, because everyone should take the autism pill. Everyone should be autism pilled. Everyone, guys, I think we need more autistic people. I'm not kidding. I think that autism should be the new normal. Okay, I'm kind of kidding. Because I like being special. But when it comes down to, like, this whole idea of the neurotypical pill or the allistic pill or whatever it is, I think it's an interesting thought experiment. And I would take the pill once, and then I would probably never take it again. Because, again, I love being autistic. And, like, when you say that, allistics don't understand it, because allistics are scared of autistic people. Allistics think that autistic people are weird. Allistics think that autistics are like, you know, they rip the leaves off your plants, you know. They're these evil little guys, and they are broken, and they can't function right, and they, like, say weird things that make the perfect allistic uncomfortable. And it's like, that sounds like a you problem, bro. That sounds like a you problem, that you haven't, like, catered yourself to understand the glory of autistic people wanting to be in your presence. Because, and I'm not saying that this applies to all autistic people, but it definitely applies to me. Again, I wouldn't want to spend time around an allistic person if I didn't have to. Every single time I have a class with another autistic person, I seek out the autistic person and I make them my friend. Because we're both autistic and I want to be friends with the autistic person. And, like, okay, in some of these recordings I'm, like, lightly masking. In this one, I'm just being blunt. Like, I'm just saying what's coming to mind. And it's my pure, unbridled autism. And people who don't like the pure, unbridled autism are weaklings. Like, they're dumb. They're fucking stupid. I'm sorry, but, like, people who don't see how, like, okay, I know that, like, 10 years ago, when the diagnostic criteria still existed, I would be diagnosed with Asperger's. Like, I would not be diagnosed with autism, I would be diagnosed with Asperger's, because I am conventionally pretty smart, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I have the ability to oh, my dog wants in. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. I let my dog in, and I got, a rice cake, and I ate it. But when I say, like, I think that I would be diagnosed with Asperger's and not autism, like, because I'm able to function, quote unquote, you know what I mean. I would be considered, like, a high functioning autistic, even though, like, that's not even a thing. I think that this whole concept of, like, Asperger's syndrome and, like, it was coined to create a socially acceptable and digestible version of autism for allistic people. So, like, allistic people, if I asked someone who didn't really understand autism what they thought autism was, they would probably tell me that they thought that autism was when people were socially awkward and could go quiet sometimes and, like, weren't good at that, like, bad at socializing, rather quiet, but smart, because the media has created this very simple and easy to digest version of autism so that allistic audiences will be more accepting of autism. Like Big Bang Theory. Because in Big Bang Theory, the whole thing is about these, like, kind of nerdy guys, and they're autistic, but they're also smart. And so, because they're autistic and also smart, you should respect autistic people because just because they have autism, they can be smart. Which then begs the question, is it okay to be mean to autistic people who are stupid? Because, in my opinion, the only difference between Asperger's syndrome, quote unquote, and whatever, quote unquote, real autism is that one of them is smart and the other one is stupid. And autism, in my opinion, is so similar to being they're very different, but so similar to being allistic. Like, every autistic person is their own person. They just have different needs, and that's why people decided that it was okay to, like, start discriminating against autistic people based on their intelligence. And don't get me wrong, humans have been discriminating against each other based on intelligence for a very long time. It was a huge proponent of eugenics. Was let's weed out all the stupid people and let's make all the smart people live together, and then they can make really, really smart babies. And then there's the rich collection of intelligent people and the poor collection of stupid people, and so, whatever. It was a huge proponent of eugenics and a huge proponent of the intelligence quotient. And so, there's this idea that autistic people only deserve respect if they're intelligent. And, of course, people can be stupid. Like, that's just a facet of being a human being. Humans are stupid sometimes. Smart people are stupid sometimes. And, like, the only thing, in my opinion, there's two things that separate a quote-unquote autistic person from a quote-unquote person with Asperger's, is that one of them's smart and can socialize a little, and one of them is stupid and can barely socialize at all, is almost completely unable to socialize in total. And I think that this whole, again, Asperger's isn't on the DSM anymore. Obviously the DSM isn't a perfect, it's not the Bible. You shouldn't take the DSM's word as holy truth. But this idea that autism is, every human being is unique, every allistic human being is unique, and every autistic human being is unique, because it's not a intellectual disability. Autism's not an intellectual disability. I'm not sure if it's a developmental disability or how I would categorize it. It's literally just a neurodivergence. It's people with ADHD can be stupid, or they can be really fucking smart. That's the best, and obviously autism and ADHD have high comorbidity, but they aren't people act like they're the same fucking condition, and they're really not. And it comes down to this super weird, I don't even know, I don't have a lot more to add exactly on that front, but people have this fear of, allistic people have this fear of autistic people, and it's so weird to me that autism is the minority in the way that humans' brains works, because to me it makes so much more sense. But obviously that's because I'm the autistic one, and the allistic people are going to be why doesn't everyone think like I do? I just learned recently that it's not super normal for allistic people to study autistic people. They don't look into their brains and try to figure out how they function. Whatever. That's just me not realizing that I have to overanalyze a little bit more to understand how allistic people work. But I don't need to figure out how autistic people work. I just know, our brains we're on the same wavelength, and I would so much rather just only know autistic people for the rest of my life and never have to interact with an allistic person again if it meant that I just understood what they meant all the time. Because, like, communicating with autistic people is so much fucking easier than communicating with allistic people. And I know I've been talking for 20 fucking minutes about autism, but and again, you could argue if you flip the script it would make you ableist, but fucking allistic people aren't a minority. They're not oppressed against. It's the normal. It's the status quo for people, because people understand allisticness more than they understand autism, and whatever. People understand not being autistic, being quote unquote normal, than they understand being autistic. I just love being autistic. I love understanding myself, and I wouldn't change that for the world. And when I hear, like, people, like, organizations like Autism Speaks trying to find a cure for autism, it's so bizarre to me, because, like, to me, I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, the only other way that I would want to have it is be able to do my homework and not have to have a meltdown when something goes slightly wrong. You know, like, those are the only things that really put a bee in my bonnet about being autistic, is I wish I could do my homework, and I wish that, like, I don't know. Also, people just, like, generally kind of think I'm stupid, I think. So, like, if I don't understand something, I'm not one to ask for help, and I'll just kind of stare off into the distance. And people take that as, like, a sign that, like, oh, I've given up on myself, and if I don't understand anything, I won't ask for help, or whatever. And it's like, that's not necessarily the case. And people think that I don't notice when they're making fun of me. And I do notice. I just decide not to say anything to avoid, like, confrontation. I think that's probably another big factor of my autism, is just being non-confrontational. If I can avoid a negative social situation, I'm going to, especially with an allistic person who doesn't understand it. For example, there was a time where I was zoning out math because what we were learning made no fucking sense, and I ended up having to drop out of that math class because it was too hard. It was, like, the advanced class. I'm not trying to say that I'm stupid. It was the advanced math class, and I'm not an advanced math student. I'm not great at math. I'm much better at, like, English and history and whatever. And this guy at my table pointed at me zoning out and tried to, like, mimic my like, zone out stare. And I saw that he was doing it, and I was like, that's fucking rude. You're making fun of me. But I didn't say anything, because what the hell am I gonna say? Like, don't make fun of me for zoning out when I don't understand something? Hell no. I'm just gonna ignore it and make a mental note to myself, okay, this guy's an asshole. I'm never gonna be nice to him again. And move on. And that's something also that, like, I learned to get over with being autistic, was I had this severe want/need to please people. Like, I would go out of my way to, like, help people that even weren't necessarily nice to me, because I wanted them to like me, and I wanted them to accept me, and I wanted them to think I wasn't weird. Now I could not fucking care less. I literally could not care less about whether or not people think I'm weird. I care if people think that I'm a good person, but I don't care if people think that I'm weird, because I know that people are going to think I'm weird, and I know that it's completely futile to try to change their minds on whether or not I'm weird based on whether or not I'm nice to them, because to allistic people, nice or kind actions mean jack fucking shit. Like, I'm dead serious. They don't mean anything to allistic people who concern themselves with things like cheating. And I pulled a little fast one on you, and I brought it back to the thing I started talking about. Like, allistic people who concern themselves with arbitrary, tabloidish drama don't care about my kindness. And so I stopped caring about giving them my kindness because I was wasting my own time trying to be nice to people who were going to be nothing but dicks to me. And it took me a while to figure that out, to figure out, like, oh yeah, these people, like, don't actually care about me. And, like, I just always thought I was, like, kind of awkward and that for some reason people didn't like me. And then I realized, no, I have autism, and they might not be able to tell that I have autism, but they definitely just think that I'm, like, fucking weird, and they don't want to talk to me because they think that I'm weird. Which is dumb, because, like, there are allistic people that are weird, and there's also, like, autistic people that are bad people and I don't like. Because, again, having autism doesn't make you any less of a human being. You're still, like, capable of emotions, and it's so strange that, like, allistics don't realize that, like, autistic people are people, and they're human beings, and they still feel things even though they have autism. And even though they may be, like, disabled, it's literally, like, the only time I feel like autism affects the way that, like, people, like, behave is when they're overly coddled and told that they can't do anything wrong because they're autistic. And I won't go into depths with this here, but I'm going to use Chris Chan as an example, because what happened with Chris is that Chris's parents always told her, always told Chris that, like, people didn't want to be friends with them because they had autism. And so Chris thought that all of her actions were, like valid, like, everything that she did was okay because she had autism. And that's really, like, an AMAB, like, coddled autistic thing. And I can get into that another time, because this recording's already, like, super fucking long, and I want to publish it today, and I don't want it to take forever to, like, upload to Google Drive and then upload to YouTube. But, like, when I say that, because that over-coddling results in autistic people deciding that, like, they're not actually taught anything on how to be a good person, because it's the same as if you had a non-autistic boy specifically, and you treated him like a king, and you spoiled him, and you gave him all the video games he wanted. He would still turn out to be a little fucking brat. And it's the same thing for autism. When you give an autistic kid, specifically an autistic boy, everything they want, and then act like they can't do anything wrong because they're autistic, you're creating a monster. Because you're giving them an excuse. Allistic kids don't have an excuse, right? Autistic people do. It's not an excuse, it's like, it's not a valid excuse. It's an excuse because it's like, oh yeah, he can't do anything wrong, and then he hides behind the idea that he's autistic. And it's not a valid excuse, but allistics don't have that valid excuse. Like, they're just, like, they're still spoiled. That's my point. I don't know if that made any sense. But I think that, like, I should go back to what I was talking about in the beginning of this recording, which is, I think that people who think that autism is evil, like, again, if there was an allistic pill that, like, if an autistic person hated being autistic, they would take the allistic pill for the rest of their life, and they would essentially be allistic. I would never do that. I would never want to take that pill forever. I would want to take it for a single day, and I would want to take it just to live in the mind of an allistic person. And I just, like, the same way that autistic people have different wants and needs, allistic people have different wants and needs. And so, like, it drives me crazy when autism is seen as, like, some horribly debilitating mental illness that leaves you, like, mentally crippled. It's not that at all. It's like, there are different ways to have autism, and, like, are there times where I've gone nonverbal? Absolutely there are. Where it physically hurts to talk? Yes. Am I, like, selectively mute around people that I don't necessarily like? Yeah, I am. I don't talk to people that I don't know. I don't talk to people I dislike. I don't talk to people who I used to know and be friends with and then turned out to be, like, total freaks. I don't talk to them. And, like, I can't talk to them. So, like, when I have to do a lab in chemistry and it's with someone I don't know, or, like, someone that makes me uncomfortable, it's hard for me to talk to them. Especially a man. And there's been times where I've, like, had to do something like that, and then over the course of the conversation, I'm like, holy fucking shit, they might not know it, but this person I'm talking to is autistic. And that makes me a little more comfortable. It doesn't make me overwhelmingly comfortable, because I think that autistic people who don't realize that they have autism, which I was for, like, 15 years, 16 years, autistic people that don't realize that they have autism have a much stronger dislike of autistic people than, like, the average allistic. Because they don't understand it, and they don't, like, I think for me, not realizing that I was autistic for as long as, like, I did, it was a whole big thing of that I didn't understand why. This is so humiliating to admit. I didn't understand why autistic people couldn't just stop acting that way, because that's what I had been doing for so long. I was like, well, yeah, I think and feel that way, but I just don't act on it. And the only difference between me and those people is I learned from an incredibly early age that I had to pretend to be someone I wasn't to be socially accepted, or be deemed socially acceptable, or to be deemed, like, enjoyable to be around. Like, people had to think that I wasn't autistic, and I had to hide facets of myself and my personality so that people would like me. And that's so sad. And I feel bad that I ever thought that way, that, like, I don't understand why these people don't just, like, pretend they don't have it. But at the same time, I was, like, kind of young and didn't really understand. Like, I just didn't really get it. And I understand now that obviously people have different needs, and the autism spectrum isn't a line of low functional to high functional. It's a series of spectrums on how much, like, someone's ability to function a specific way. And so some people, one of those functions is masking. One of those functions is pretending to not be autistic. And some people just can't do that. Some people just can't pretend to not be autistic. And they don't have to pretend to be not autistic. I think that all autistic people should act autistically. I think that it's going to come with a lot of hatred from allistic people who think that autism should be cured. And I think that some autistic people have I think some autistic people are still embarrassed of being autistic, and I think that we need to, like, break down that barrier. I've been rambling for so fucking long. I'm gonna wrap this recording up. I will talk about autism another time. I think that this condition, this neurodivergence, is not a curse. I think that I love the way that my brain works, and I would genuinely never have it any other way. Like, if I could change, like, if I was given the option to start my life over again, and God was like, okay, do you want to be allistic or autistic this time? I'd be like, no, I want to be autistic again. Because I just, like, don't, like, okay, maybe just for the sake of, like, having the experience of living as an allistic person, maybe, But I know, like, that I would just prefer my autistic life. I love living this way. I love the way that my brain works. I love the way that, like, I think it's so much more fascinating that I have to, like, to understand how allistic people behave, I have to study them. Like, I love that. And some people might think, why would you love that? That sounds like a curse. But to me, it's not a curse. I think it makes me have to think more about why people behave why people behave the way that they do. And then I will, like, understand. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I love living this way. I love having an autistic brain. I would not exchange it for the world. And I think that if there was an allistic pill, I would take it for a single day. And I also think if there was an autistic pill, every allistic person should take it a single time. And if they prefer living an autistic life, then go the fuck ahead. But I love being autistic.